Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in planes for New Delhi after concluding his five-nation visit. Prime Minister highlighted issues faced by Global South, as also firmed up multiple pacts on areas of immense importance. Prime Minister Modi conferred with Namibia's highest civilian honour, also addresses Namibia's parliament, says both nations respect dignity and freedom for a shared future. Trump broadens push for tariff deals, unveils 50% Brazil levy effective from August 1st. Brazil warns of reciprocal measures. Letter also issued to Philippines, Sri Lanka, Brunei, Algeria, Libya, Iraq and Moldova. Hamas agrees to release 10 hostages as part of Gaza ceasefire talks, says negotiations are tough. Trump says Gaza ceasefire possible this week or next after second meeting with Netanyahu. India and England brace for Lord's showdown. Jasprit Bumrah returns to boost India's pace battery, while Jofra Archer will play his first test in more than 4 years. 5-match series tied at 1-1. And on to the details now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive this morning after successfully concluding his five-nation visit. In the first leg of his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited to Ghana from July 2nd to 3rd. This was Prime Minister's first ever bilateral visit to Ghana. This prime ministerial visit from India to Ghana took place after 3 decades. While in the second leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Trinidad and Tobago from July 3rd to July 4th. This was his first visit to the country as Prime Minister and the first bilateral visit at the prime ministerial level to Trinidad and Tobago since 1999. In the third leg of his visit, Prime Minister travelled to Argentina from July 4th to 5th. Prime Minister held bilateral talks with President Milei and discussed ways to further enhance India-Argentina partnership in key areas. While in the fourth leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Brazil from July 5th to 8th, 2025, where he attended 17th BRICS Summit 2025 in Rio de Janeiro. Prime Minister's visit to Rio de Janeiro was followed by a state visit to Brazil's capital, Brasilia, where he held bilateral discussions with President Lula. In the final leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Namibia on July 9th, 2025. This was first visit of Prime Minister to Namibia and the third ever prime ministerial visit from India to Namibia. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to garner global recognition for his statesmanship and soaring popularity on the world stage, with this time Namibia honouring him with its highest civilian award, Order of the Most Ancient Welwitschia Mirabilis. The award was established in 1995, shortly after Namibia gained independence in 1990, to recognize distinguished service and leadership. This makes it the 27th award for Prime Minister Modi and 4th award in this ongoing tour. The award was presented by Namibian President, who hailed Modi's contributions to global peace, justice and socio-economic development. Prime Minister Modi dedicated the honour to the unwavering friendship between India and Namibia.
नामीबिया का वेलविचिया, जिसके नाम पर इस अवार्ड का नाम रखा गया है, यह कोई साधारण पौधा नहीं है। यह घर के एल्डर्स की तरह हैं, जिन्होंने समय को करवट लेते देखा है। यह नामीबिया के लोगों के संघर्ष, साहस और संस्कृति का प्रतीक है। यह भारत और नामीबिया की अविचल दोस्ती का साक्षी है और आज इससे जुड़कर मैं बहुत गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहा हूं। मैं इस सम्मान को नामीबिया और भारत के लोगों को उनकी निरंतर प्रगति और विकास को और हमारी अटूट मित्रता को समर्पित करता हूं।
Prime Minister Modi concluded his Namibia visit with addressing the joint session of the Parliament, announcing India's support for establishing an entrepreneurship development centre in Namibia. He emphasized that the centre would serve as a hub for Namibian youth, providing mentorship, funding and networking opportunities to nurture their business dreams.
We are honored to support Namibia's youth through the new Entrepreneurship Development Center. It will be a place where business dreams can get mentorship, funding, and friends too.
Well, Prime Minister Modi also expressed his excitement over Namibia becoming the first country to adopt India's Unified Payments Interface, or the UPI technology.
We are thrilled that Namibia is the first country to adopt India's UPI, Unified Payment Interface technology. Soon, people will be able to send money faster than one can say Tangi Unene. Our bilateral trade has crossed $800 million. But like on the cricket field, we are just warming up.
Prime Minister Modi also spoke about Namibia's role in the reintroduction of cheetahs in India.
India and Namibia have a powerful story of cooperation, conservation, and compassion. When you help us in reintroducing cheetahs in our country, we are deeply grateful for your gift.
Prime Minister Modi also highlighted India's historical leadership in the Global South, from spearheading freedom struggles in the 20th century to driving development in the 21st century. He stressed that the Global South's progress lies not in dominance but through dialogue and cooperation.
In the 20th century, India's independence lit a spark, one that inspired freedom movements across the world, including here in Africa. In the 21st century, India's development lights a path showing that the global South can rise, lead, and shape its own future. The message is, you can succeed on your own terms without losing your identity. For this message to echo louder, we must act together. Let us create a future defined not by power, but by partnership. not by dominance, but by dialogue. Not by exclusion, but by equity. This will be the spirit of our shared vision. From freedom to future, स्वतंत्रता से समृद्धि, संकल्प से सिद्धि. From the spark of independence to the light of shared progress, let us walk this path together.
Following the address, Prime Minister Modi interacted with the MPs there. He said that their positivity towards India was clearly visible. And in Namibia, Prime Minister Modi held high-level delegation talks with President Dr. Netembo Nandi-Ndaitwah in the capital Windhoek, focusing on deepening India-Namibia ties. Also, the discussion covered cooperation in energy, health, education and digital technology with the aim of strengthening bilateral partnerships. In his address, Prime Minister Modi underscored cooperation in the civil, nuclear and petroleum sectors. He affirmed that both countries are committed to further promoting trade and investment. Earlier, President Nandi-Ndaitwah praised the strong India-Namibia relationship, emphasizing the potential of both countries to expand trade and investment cooperation. She highlighted key areas of collaboration, including green hydrogen, mining and value addition, oil and gas infrastructure development, food security and tourism. Well, following the talks, India and Namibia signed 4 agreements to strengthen bilateral ties. These include the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure Framework Agreement, aimed at enhancing infrastructure resilience, the Global Biofuels Alliance Framework Agreement to promote sustainable energy, a Memorandum of Understanding on establishing an Entrepreneurship Development Center to foster innovation, and an agreement on cooperation in the health and medicine to advance healthcare collaboration. These pacts underscore the shared commitment of India and Namibia to sustainable development and mutual growth. Well, the National Investigation Agency has filed the first supplementary charge sheet against Jaguar Hussain Rana on Wednesday. The case pertains to a criminal conspiracy hatched by David Coleman Headley, Jaguar Hussain Rana and other members of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Huji to carry out terrorist attacks in different parts of India. The supplementary charge sheet pertains to the submission of documents regarding the extradition of accused Jaguar Hussain Rana and additional evidence collected by NIA. Further investigations in the case are continuing. Well, an IF Jaguar trainer aircraft met with an accident during a routine training mission and crashed near Churu in Rajasthan on Wednesday. Both pilots sustained fatal injuries in the accident. However, no damage to any civil property was reported. IAF expressed deep regret over the loss of lives and said it stands firmly with the bereaved families in this time of grief. A court of inquiry has been constituted to ascertain the cause of the accident. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Marco Rubio to meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur today. South Korea's ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol rearrested after court orders. Judge cites fears he could destroy evidence. Yoon faces charges of insurrection over martial law bid. And Wimbledon women's semi-finals will be played today. Stay tuned to know who plays who.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. when supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana. And moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday issued a round of tariff letters to 7 countries, including Algeria, Iraq, Libya, Sri Lanka and the Philippines. The letters call for tariffs of 30% each on Algeria, Iraq, Libya and Sri Lanka, 25% each on Brunei and Moldova, and 20% on the Philippines. The latest letters add to 14 others issued earlier in the week, including 25% tariffs for South Korea and Japan, which are also to take effect from August 1st, barring any trade deals reached before then. These were issued a day after Trump said he was broadening his trade war by imposing a 50% tariff on imported copper and would soon introduce long-threatened levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Trump has said trade talks have been going well with China and the European Union, which is the biggest bilateral trading partner of the U.S. And U.S. President Donald Trump announced that America would impose a 50% tariff on all imports from Brazil after a public spat with his Brazilian counterpart Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva this week. Well, in the letter posted on Truth Social, Trump announced that the 50% tariff is linked to Brazil's treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is facing trial on the charges of plotting a coup to stop President Lula from taking office in 2023. Trump also accused Brazil of attacks on U.S. tech companies. Trump was involved in a public spat with Lula earlier this week, while Brazilian president fired back on Wednesday, saying new tariffs would be met with reciprocal measures. Lula said Brazil would not accept interference from anyone and added no one is above the law. Lula, his vice president, his finance minister and others held an emergency meeting in Brasilia on Wednesday night to discuss the new levies. Well, President Donald Trump said African nations are going to lower their tariffs and that the United States treats Africa better than China does, adding that 5 African countries were unlikely to face U.S. tariffs. Trump, meeting with the leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania and Senegal at the White House, added that he did not think those countries at the gathering were likely to see any U.S. tariffs. And moving on to West Asia situation, leaders are inching towards Gaza ceasefire deal as talks are going in good direction between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump in the United States. Speaking at an interview with Fox Business Network's Mornings with Maria, Netanyahu said negotiations are focused on a 60-day ceasefire that would see half of the living and deceased hostages returned to Israel. He said Israel has set up its own system to prevent Hamas from diverting supplies.
And you have been meeting with President Trump about a potential ceasefire with Hamas. Where does that stand? Will you agree to some of these new recent demands of Hamas?
Well, look, we are talking about a 60-day ceasefire in which half the live hostages and half of the deceased hostages would be returned to Israel by these Hamas monsters, you know. And yes, I think we're getting closer to a deal. I think.
While Hamas on Wednesday said it would release 10 hostages as part of Gaza ceasefire talks after Israel struck an upbeat note about the prospects for a deal to stop the fighting in Gaza. The group's statement came after 4 days of indirect talks brokered by Qatar as the United States signaled its belief that agreement for a 60-day truce would be struck before the end of the week. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said part of the deal would be the return of 10 living hostages held by militants since Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, which sparked conflict. And moving on, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday morning to attend the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. During his visit, Rubio will attend a post-ministerial conference and a meeting by East Asian foreign ministers. It is Rubio's first visit to Asia since taking office, and he will try to reassure his ASEAN partners that the region is a priority for Washington. He will also meet with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and also trilateral talks with the Philippines and Japan. Rubio will also meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the meetings on Thursday. It will be the second in-person meeting between Rubio and Lavrov. The meeting comes a day after Russia blasted Ukraine with its largest missile and drone attack in more than 3 years of conflict. And South Korea's former president has been rearrested over last year's failed martial law bid that plunged the country into political turmoil. Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached in April over the order which saw military rule introduced for 6 hours in December. A senior judge at Seoul's Central District Court issued an arrest warrant for Yoon on Wednesday, citing fears he could destroy evidence. Yoon is already on trial for insurrection, personally appearing in court to contest the charges. However, Yoon has refused several summons from a special counsel launched by Parliament to investigate his martial law attempt, prompting prosecutors to seek his arrest on June 24th. Yoon, who was the first sitting South Korean president to be arrested, faces trial on charges of leading an insurrection over his attempt to impose martial law. And Texas flash floods update now. The devastating floods sweeping through central Texas have claimed at least 119 lives, with over 160 people still unaccounted for. Workers in central Texas continue to comb through piles of muddy debris from the July 4th floods as Governor Greg Abbott ordered flags to be lowered to half-staff over the tragedy. The bulk of fatalities in the search for additional victims were concentrated in Kerr County and the county seat of Carville, which transformed into a disaster zone when torrential rain struck the region early last Friday. The catastrophe has triggered fresh scrutiny of the country's emergency response model. Governor Abbott, who toured the affected areas recently, said the state's emergency alert system would be reviewed in a special legislative session this month. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump will visit Texas on Friday to assess the damage and meet with the officials. Meanwhile, the U.S. National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning and flash flood alert for parts of the U.S., including Washington, D.C. Flood warnings issued for parts of Maryland, Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, including Baltimore, Columbia, due to severe thunderstorms producing heavy rainfall. In their latest alert, the National Weather Service has asked directions to take shelter in a safer place. And now to some sports news now. The India versus England 5-match test series heads into its pivotal third chapter at the most iconic cricket venue of them all, Lords. The test series is finally balanced at 1-1. As the third test approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher, with both sides eyeing a crucial lead. While India arrives with the momentum of a record-breaking win, England will be desperate to restore parity on familiar turf. Here's a report.
After a dominant 336-run victory at Edgbaston, India carried not just momentum but renewed belief. Their captain Shubman Gill, who scored over 400 runs in that match alone, returns to the home of cricket as a batter in sublime form, leading a side hungry to rewrite their overseas record. But England, bruised yet unbowed, will look to bounce back hard. The Lord's surface, known for its early movement, could tempt the host to tweak their bowling attack. Eyes are on speedster Jofra Archer, who returned to the squad after recovering from injury. Meanwhile, India welcome back their pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah. His inclusion promises a thrilling duel, especially against England's in-form middle order.
Lords का जो टेस्ट का जो फर्स्ट सेकंड इनिंग का स्कोर्स भी है वो कंपैरेटिवली लो है, सो एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि थोड़ा हेल्प बॉलर्स को ज्यादा हो सकता है. बैट्समैन के लिए चैलेंजिंग सेम थिंग मैं बिलीव करता हूं कि वो माइंडसेट ही है. Spending time on the wickets is the best friend you can have.
Akashdeep, fresh from a record-breaking 10-wicket haul, rattled England's top order and notably cleaned up Joe Root with a fabulous delivery at Edgbaston. The right-arm seamer now faces the challenge of maintaining that form under the scrutiny of Lords. India's batting has found rhythm too. Apart from Captain Gill, Vice-Captain Rishabh Pant, Yashasvi Jaiswal and KL Rahul have showcased fearlessness and scored valuable centuries across both tests.
We, over the, history of 50-60 years, we played 7 matches over different courses, different teams coming here. I believe this is the best Indian team to be able to come here in England, and we have the capability to beat them, to win the series from here. And we have got the right momentum with us. If we keep making the right decisions and we keep grinding and we keep fighting, I think it would be one of the series to remember.
For England, a response is imperative. The batting unit, led by Stokes, Root, Brooke and Pope, has to find answers against India's varied and confident bowling attack. As the battle for Test supremacy intensifies, both teams know the third Test could be decisive. With the series tied at 1-1 and the Lord's stage set, expect no shortage of drama and defining moments. Sports Desk, DD India.
And in Wimbledon women's semi-finals later today, Belarusian Aryna Sabalenka will play against American Amanda Anisimova, in the while Poland's Iga Świątek is up against Polish Belinda Bencic. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.